Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us for our bi-weekly guided meditation and live stream here at the Blue Lotus Meditation and Mindfulness Center here in central Minnesota, in Brainerd, Minnesota, if you're familiar with that. I'm Vladimir, and I am the founder of our center, and I warmly welcome you to tonight's live stream Dharma Talk and guided meditation. So today is September 18th, 2023. It's now about 6 p.m. here in the Central Time Zone, and I am absolutely delighted to have you all here with us this evening. Absolutely. So cool. And just for you to be able to spend some time with us is important. You know, so many want to strengthen or develop their mindfulness skills, but sometimes it may not last as long as that they intended to. And so we are glad to see you here with us practicing your mindfulness. And so tonight's topic is the Dharma, mindfulness, and the Beatles, and one of the most influential bands of all times. And I remember there was a quote from Brian Epstein, who was the manager of the Beatles back in the day before he passed away, that when he was promoting them, he told, the labels or the record stores or whatnot that, the Beatles, they're going to be around. The kids in the year 2000 are going to be listening to them, and how true that has come to be. And we are now in 2023, so well beyond 2000, and kids are still listening to them. So that's how influential that they were. And part of their music was certainly inspired by the times that were going on in the 60s. And so part of that, of the times of the 60s, was an awakening, an awareness of what was going on. And that will certainly lead us into our guided meditation for this evening before we actually begin our Dharma talk. So let's begin by taking a moment to settle our bodies into a nice, comfortable position. You may close your eyes or keep them slightly open with a soft focus, looking downward a few feet in front of you if you choose. Breathe in. Pause. And breathe out. And you are certainly warmly invited to allow that half smile to rest on your face as well, if you choose. Allow your spine to lift and your shoulders to soften. And soften your belly as you continue settling it. Breathe in. Pause. And breathe out. And let's meditate on open awareness. And we'll start with just a brief body scan. And moving from head to toe, gently rest your attention on each part of the body with mindful awareness. Starting with your head, your neck, your shoulders, your arms, and your wrists and hands. Your spine and your ribs. Your buttocks and your hips. Your thighs and your knees. Your calves and your ankles. The tops of your feet. The bottom of your feet. And your toes. Knowing that each part of your body is a part of you and it's connected to you. And it plays an important role in your daily functions. And after completing the body scan, let's open our awareness to the sensations of the body. Perhaps there's some tension or pain. Softness. Maybe you have a desire to fidget, or maybe a particular emotion or feeling is arising. Just make a note of what is arising and just grabbing your attention. Not judging it, just bringing awareness to it. Now let's open our practice to the experience of hearing. When a sound comes to your awareness, acknowledge that you're hearing it. And then sit for the next few moments with patience, noticing any bodily sensations or sounds that are present. Breathe in, pause, and breathe out. And let's continue to open, but this time we're going to include the thinking mind. You may see thoughts or emotional experiences or simply just general mental states. And whatever is present, just note that you are having that experience of the mind. It's not good or not bad, just noting it. Cultivate an intention to receive and remain open. Simply recognizing whatever is present in your awareness and how it feels. And if your mind is reacting to any part of your experience, make that reaction a part of your experience. Breathe in. Pause. And breathe out. And then for the next few moments, just mindfully observe the body, just making gentle notes. Go ahead and begin to open your eyes slowly and reorientating yourselves to your surroundings before you begin to move about. Wonderful. That awareness that we have, that we are learning and continuing to develop and cultivate, is really vital to our existence. Excuse me. So often we just let it go, just like, oh, I'm feeling sad, or I'm feeling angry, or I've got a knee ache, or a stomach ache, or whatever it is, and just kind of, oh, it's there, and just kind of let it go, but without really bringing any awareness to it. Well, why am I feeling sad? Or acknowledging it and maybe exploring it a little bit more. Why am I feeling sad? Or why am I feeling angry? Maybe trying to get to the root to why those emotions are brought to the surface. And that's an important part of kind of what went on during the 60s as well, right? There was that 1960s were a big time of social change, and that social change was certainly expressed in the musics, especially by the beginning of the mid 60s and so forth. And with this change came the open curiosity of spiritual development, right? Or maybe spiritual development came first and then the music followed thereafter. Right? When we think of a coin, sometimes we think of, the heads or tails. Either way, can't have one without the other. So there must have been some catalyst for that. And then with that interest in spiritual development, especially those Eastern philosophies that incorporated yoga and meditation and Hinduism and Buddhism, there's that vast divergence from what mainstream music was during the day, right? Just guitars and drums and bass guitars and whatnot, maybe a trumpet or a saxophone. Those types of instruments and the typical soda pop lyrics. That's where pop music kind of gets its name from. So it's not just pop, but it's soda pop lyrics. So yet at the same time, we're including these philosophies, right, that were introduced, from those Eastern philosophies. So they eventually presented themselves musically in none other than the Beatles. So certainly one of the biggest and most influential bands of our times. And so during the 60s and the spiritual development and opening that honestly really lasted until the 70s, even with that new age spiritual development, up until like even the 75, 77 and so forth. But beginning in February 1968, the Beatles, all four of them, the mid-February 1968, they went to Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, right, where they went to learn and study TM, transcendental meditation, and all the other philosophies and the important attributes of his teachings at the ashram. But even before that, even before that, the Beatles had already started experimenting with different lyrics and incorporating those philosophies in their music. And this meeting with the Maharishi kind of culminated and nurtured itself into its own being. And we were gifted by their musical talents, with several songs that we'll talk about tonight. So I, Me, Mine, and The Inner Light, Love to You, and Within You, Without You. But we'll start off with some of the lyrics and considerations from I, Me, Mine, which is from the Let It Be album that was released in 1970. So their final studio album. And if we think about I, Me, Mine, what are those qualities? Those qualities are ego, right? I, me, and mine, self-centered. And so if we look at some of the lyrics that were developed all through the day, all through the night, all I can hear, right? I, me, mine, all I can hear is myself, my self-centeredness. And I did this. Oh, that was me. Or those are mine, right? All of those self-centered attributes. And one of the other lyrics that are skillfully presented in there are flowing more freely than wine. So our ego, our self-centeredness, it's just something that flows very easily, right? You can ask a child, Where is your toy? Or which one is your stuffed lion or toy yellow submarine, right? And they'll say, oh, that one is mine, right? We even do it as adults, right? This is my pencil, right? This is my mug, right? So we still identify it as ours, as a possession. So that's where it kind of lends itself to supporting, the mindfulness, the ego, and that's what we try to bring awareness to in mindfulness, and even in Buddhism and Hinduism, is that self-centeredness, and not self-centered in a selfish way, just the world revolving around you. And then the next song that we'll consider, it's really one of my favorites. It's The Inner Light. And that wasn't on excuse me. That wasn't on a particular album, but it was released in 1968, and it came off, it was compilation records later on in the 70s and so forth. But we can look at some of the lyrics, right, that I think are really indicative of what we study, that mind expansion. And I should note that this is all pretty much after they stopped doing substances during these times. So in The Inner Light, we have the lyrics, without going out of my door, I can know all things of earth. So we can know so much about what goes on around us without leaving our homes. And that's not through cable news or social media, because there certainly wasn't social media back then, but even newspapers and magazines. Without looking out of my window, I could know the ways of heaven. Imagine that self-exploration. Self-exploration that is able to be accomplished without going anywhere. Without going out of your door, you too can know the ways of things all on earth, right? And without looking out your window, you too can know the ways of heaven. And so that's some of the lyrics. And then arrive without traveling, see all without looking, do all without doing. And so when we consider Buddhism, that it's the non-doing that allows us to explore, to make those connections. When we're always doing something, when we're always running around, when we're always active in some type of activity, right? We kind of lose what we could be learning, or maybe we never even grasp it because we're so focused on a particular activity, not living, and we'll talk about it later on in the next one, but living between those spaces of the doing and the non-doing. And that's the Dharma right there, right? That's the Dharma right there. Doing without doing. And so that inner exploration, right? The answers aren't out in the stars. The answers are within us. I think that's an amazing foresight that they presented to us, that they gifted to us, that we can consider and explore on. And again, the Buddha talked about it 2,500 years ago, before the Beatles. The next song we'll consider is Love to You from the Revolver album, which was released in 1966. So this is, again, before they went to India, but still the concepts and the desire to learn more, right? That spiritual awakening is happening here. And we also are introduced to some new instrumentation, though, right? The sitar, right? The sitar was certainly a part of this song, played by Ravi Shakur. His daughter actually still plays very well, or she's still an accomplished performer. So if you get to listen to her, go ahead and do so as well. But some of the lyrics from there: each day just goes so fast. I turn around, it's past. So think about how quickly we live our lives, not in the moment. And that's mindfulness right there, right? Or maybe perhaps not being mindful in this case, right? Each day goes so fast, I turn around, it's past, right? Not being mindful. So he is telling us that the days just go by, right? Love me while you can. Before I'm a dead old man, lifetime is so short. A new one can't be bought. And so we have to learn in the moment, or live in the moment, with that mindful awareness. Like, I am here. I am at our center. I am sitting in a chair, and I am having a wonderful discourse with you all. That's where I am. I can feel a little bit of pressure on my hips and butt as I sit here. I notice those bodily sensations. I am joyfully and delighted to be here with you all. That's where I am. Right? So being aware, not letting the moments just go by without consideration, without appreciation. And then lastly, within you and within you without you, from Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band in 1967. And again, some of those lyrics, we were talking about the space between us all. So think about that, the space between us all. A lot of things happen. There's a lot of space between you and I, and there's a lot of activity going on in there, right? Again, that's the non-doing that we are really trying to be mindful of. We want to be the non-doing because that's where, a lot of things actually happen. And the people who hide themselves behind a wall of illusion, some of that could be ego, right? Or not seeing the world as it truly is, veiled, right? With personal perspectives and biases and personal judgment. So not seeing the world as it truly is. And people hiding behind themselves. Perhaps they hide behind an air of toughness, right? An air of exaggerated ego. And that's a wall of illusion. And we were talking about the love we all could share. When we find it, to try our best to hold it there with our love. With our love, we could save the world if they only knew, right? Never glimpse the truth, because we're not open sometimes. And so mindfulness allows us to be open, to be receptive, to accepting love and kindness. And that's what Buddhism is too. Right? Why did the Buddha embark on his journey, right, to obtain enlightenment? It wasn't just for his benefit, it was for the world's benefit, right? Unbounded compassion towards all living beings. With our love, we could save the world. And Jesus too, right? Even Jesus loved the world. Try to realize it's all within yourself. You already have those seeds of kindness and generosity and compassion and empathy. And what stops us from nurturing those seeds very often, the wall of illusion, ego. If I am compassionate to everyone, people will think I'm soft. Compassion is a great feat of strength. And if we think about it, opening yourself up to someone else, it's easy to hide. It's easy to put that wall of illusion between you and someone else. And then what happens, right? So let's see what happens. So no one else can make you change, which is true, right? Only you can do that. No one is going to forcefully change your mind to believe one thing or another. It's up to you. And then when you've seen beyond yourself, then you may find peace of mind waiting there. We are all connected. We're not separate. We're not separate beings in that sense. Right? Remember, I, me, mine, right? That egocentric, self-centered view. I am isolated. I am alone, and it's whatever I can grab in life. No. See beyond yourself. That's where the peace of mind happens. I shared something with you. That's where generosity comes in. And that's when you can feel good about yourself, or you can allow yourself to feel good about a good deed that you have done. And then at the time will come when you will see we're all one, and life flows on within you and without you. So what does that mean? Sure, you have living cells in your body and whatnot, but life is flowing within you, without you, even if you aren't here. We talked about othering in one of our previous talks. That somebody else, some other person is different than you, but that's not true. They're the same as you. They have the same needs and wants and desires. All beings have a desire to be happy, to have a joyful existence. And that's where we can see that we are all one. And that by opening, by removing that wall of illusion, we can truly see. We can see beyond yourself or ourselves, and then find that peace of mind is there. It's not a competition. It's not. Life is not a competition. It's a partnership. And life flows on within you and without you. So even after we are gone, which will happen, life will still go on. Now, thank you all for joining us this wonderful Monday evening as we talked about open awareness and the Beatles and how, mindfulness and the Dharma and awareness and so forth found its way into their lyrics. And I'm sure that they have changed some people's lives for the better, embarked on a new journey of openness and awareness and compassion and empathy towards other beings. So let us know what you think in the comments below. I am absolutely looking forward to reading what you all thought, whether it's now or sometime in the future if you watch this. Either way, I'm grateful for you that you have spent some of your precious time with us this evening. And so our next Dharma talk will be October 2nd, right? Becoming a stream enterer. Right? What is a stream enterer? Right? I'm sure you can probably research that a little bit, but stay tuned with us, right? We'll talk about that a little bit and what does that mean? And maybe you can join in as well. Join us into the stream. Our final 2 meditation and mindfulness retreats are on September 24th. So next Sunday, that's a live event, personal in-person event, and October 1st. Right? You're welcome to register on our website for those events if you're in the area. If not, we'd still love to have you come out, spend a wonderful, mindful afternoon on a Sunday with us. Help us before many of us get back to our daily lives and work. We also have our weekly sanghas. Those are always free. There's no requirement just to register, so I know you're coming, and that's all. We have our healing sangha and our veteran sangha, our new beginning sangha, rainbow sangha, welcoming sangha, and our teen sangha. Right? And with that, my dear friends, I wish you all an evening of peace, ease, and well-being. Until next time.